and thank you for joining us on the dog section of our How to Use Essential Oils on Animals. This is Sadie Mae, and she is a wonderful friend of ours who's going to help us demonstrate oils. She uses oils every day, so she's quite used to them. I've picked out a few of my favorite oils to use on dogs and horses, so I thought this would be a good one to go ahead and start working with. We're basically going to just demo different ways of putting them on to the animals. Dogs especially, we use a lot topically, sometimes internally. She does eat essential oils on her dinner every night. So you can definitely take these internally, but a lot of times topically is good enough. The one thing to remember when you're working with dogs, and any animals really, is that their olfactory system is much, much more sensitive than our system is. So one thing you want to do is be very respectful of their noses. We like to take an essential oil and hold it right up to our nose and smell, it's not necessarily the kindest thing to put it right up to a dog's nose and have them sniff it. Because they are so sensitive, some of these oils are very, very pungent, and it can actually seem irritating to the dog when they smell it. So it's good to let them smell it, and certainly we want that to go into their olfactory system, but I always put it on me or hold the bottle a few feet away from the dog, and if the dog comes to it, that's great, let them sniff as much as they want. If they don't seem to want to smell it, don't force the issue. That's a good time to go into other parts of the body where they don't have to smell it quite so rough. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start with probably one of Sadie's favorite oils. This is a blend called Rudavella. Now this is one that's actually in the roll-on, and the roll-on is very nice to use with dogs, sometimes especially if you're working with a nervous or hyper or possibly injured dog. They're not going to sit as nice as Sadie's doing here for us. So I like to use the roll-ons. Not all the oils are available in the roll-ons, but this particular blend, Rudavella, and we'll talk about this in the other segments of the essential oils specifically, but this is a good blend for quieting dogs down. And whenever I like to quiet a dog down, I always work with the ears. The inside of the ears is a very good place to work with dogs because, as you can see, you get to the skin very easily without having to fight through the hair. So working on the inside is a great place to do it. Now the one caution, and one of the reasons I like to use and recommend the use of the roll-ons on the inside of the ears, just as with humans, and as we talked about in our safety section of using essential oils, you never want to drip an oil down into a dog's ear canal. That can cause major discomfort, just like it can on a human or a child or any other animal. So you want to make sure that when you put an oil on the inside of the ear, you put it on your hand first and rub it on the inside, or you put it on a Q-tip or a cotton swab to get down onto the inside of the ear. But you never ever want to just drip it down. So for her, we're going to go ahead and just apply this. We're not going to apply all the oils. She doesn't need all of these oils, but she does like to have a little bit of calming oils put on her. So all I do is I just rub it on. That's much. That's it. Now normally, when I do this, I do both ears, and I just roll it on a couple circles is all I do, and that's it. And then she's got enough Rudavella to help calm her down. Not that she's all that excited right now. So that's a good, safe way to apply oils to a dog's ears. This particular oil, Blend Valor, is another one of my favorite oils, and we'll go ahead and apply this to Sadie because it's always good to have Valor on hand. Valor, if you remember from our other sections on the oils, is the balancing blend for working with the spinal column. So usually when I'm working with Valor, I'm working to actually help align or straighten out or relieve spinal issues or any kind of bony issues. So a lot of times when I'm working with Valor, I will just take it, I'll find the shoulder blades, which are really easy to find on dogs. I'll push the hair forward. One of the nice things about working with dogs and any animals is that when you're working, put the oils on their back, you can actually utilize gravity to help pull that oil down into their skin. A lot of people get worried that they're not going to be able to get the oil onto the skin. Actually, it's just the opposite. Because the hair acts like a straw, basically, an opposite straw. It basically, the oils will drip onto that hair follicle, and it will follow just by being pulled by gravity. It will follow that hair all the way into the skin. Now the nice thing, one of the really neat things about working with animals is their follicles are so much larger than the average follicle on a human. So when that oil gets pulled down to the base of that hair follicle, it's already deep into the skin and goes directly to work basically subcutaneously. So I just took it and I put 2 drops, I think is all that came out, and I just rub it in. Now if I were working, I was really using these for application, I would probably put a couple drops here and a couple drops back between her hips in the same manner. Now Sadie is about a 70-pound dog, but still we're not going to use much oils on her. As you could tell, I used just a couple circles and then I used just 2 drops of Valor. Quantity is not what you're going for here. These are quality essential oils, so you only need a couple drops. Resist the temptation to use multiple drops and multiple essential oils even. This is another blend. This is a blend from Brazil. It's called Copaíba. This is a very good anti-inflammatory blend. I use this on hips, hips of dogs, hips of people, hips of horses. It's a really good one to work on getting rid of inflammation and bone pain. So for you, for those of you who have dogs that have hip dysplasia, arthritis, this is a good oil to put on topically. Now, same thing when you're using this kind of blend. If I were working on, like, let's say her hip or her shoulder, I would just find the shoulder blade and I would apply a drop right into that area, and I would just rub it in. And always, praise your dogs when they're sitting and staying nice and still. It's always good to make sure that they're calm and comfortable with what you're doing. Now Sadie is obviously very comfortable with it. This next oil, this one we're going to put in a little bit different place. And normally, this is a blend called Digize, and normally when I'm working with this blend, it's because they have some sort of upset stomach, either diarrhea, vomiting, they ate something bad, they're bloated. I've used this on our dogs every now and then. If they get into something that they're not supposed to, and they ate too much of it, they will get that bloated stomach, which can actually be very hazardous for dogs. So you want to release that tension and bloating within their intestines as soon as possible. So this is a very good blend for doing that. When you use Digize, you want to get it into the abdomen area because that is what you're working with. You can take a couple drops and you can drop it along the back, or what I normally like to do is on the underside of your dogs between the back legs, the hair gets thinner. I usually take a couple drops, put them in my hand, and then rub the underside of the dog. And then that is a good way to get it into the skin very quickly. Now this is an oil, a lot of times if your dogs do have an upset stomach, they will go ahead and lick this off of their stomachs, or off of their stomach where you applied it. Let them. It's very good for them to get in internally. Sometimes if the case is, if they have an extremely upset stomach, or like working with horses, if a horse looks like it might start to colic before the vet gets out there, I'll actually go ahead and put this actually in their mouth. So if they lick this blend off, as with all of these essential oils, that's fine, it's good for them. This last blend we're going to talk about is Panaway. This is another blend that's really good for bone and joint pain. I really like to use this a lot on animals. It's a very fresh scent. This is one that most animals, when you put it to their nose, because it has a lot of wintergreen and peppermint, it's got a sharp, crisp scent to it, they don't like that put right up to their nose. So you rarely put this around their head, but a lot of times I will drop this over their hips or their joints that we're working on. And again, you just let it drip in, and you just rub it into that area. Now, just a couple cautions. Whenever you're working with essential oils, and especially with animals, always have a fatty oil to use for dilution. Remember, we don't want to use water to ever dilute the essential oils. you always use a fatty oil. So if it looks like it's bothering them for any reason, if it seems like it might be irritating the skin, you dilute with the fatty oil. Then this last thing to have on hand, I think, for anybody who's getting Young Living products, this is a blend, this is a spray. It's Lavaderm, it's aloe vera and lavender essential oil blended together. This is a must-have, I think, for having animals. This is a great one to have on hand because you can actually just spray it right onto them. So it's very easy if you get cuts or abrasions. I will many times put an essential oil on the paw, on the area where the abrasion happened, and then cover it with Lavaderm. It's very easy and gentle. So